Overview and Scrutiny Committee, which is open to the press and public. The meeting has been broadcast live, and a recording of this meeting will be made available as soon as possible after this meeting has concluded. We welcome the use of the Welsh language at meetings. I have had no requests for people to speak Welsh today, so this meeting will be conducted in English only. Please can members refrain from using the chat function and instead use the raise hand icon to indicate when you want to speak. And please remember to keep your microphone muted when you are not talking. Please do not interrupt discussions until you have notified of your intention to speak and you have been invited to do so. Okay, moving on to the agenda. Agenda item 1. Firstly, may I welcome all members, executive members and officers to the meeting. And Niall, do we have any apologies, please?
I haven't received any apologies, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Item number 2, declarations of interest. Could I ask if any members should have any declarations of interest that they declare them now, please? I take that's none. Okay, so agenda item 3 is the action sheet. Please, Rebecca, could you update members on any actions outstanding, please?
Thank you, Chair. So there are a handful of items on the action sheet from the last meetings of what was the Healthier Communities Committee and also the Prosperous Communities Overview and Scrutiny Committee. So obviously they've been merged under the remit of this committee now. I have chased these items and they are being worked on, and I will forward the responses to each of those actions to the committee as soon as they are available. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Rebecca. Agenda item 4, update on progress of recommendations. I'll now hand you over to Rebecca to introduce your update on recommendations report.
Thank you, Chair. So just to give some members some context behind this report. So since May 2023, the Adults Communities Overview and Scrutiny Committee, which, as I've just mentioned, was formerly the Healthier Communities Overview and Scrutiny and the Prosperous Overview and Scrutiny Committee, have made numerous sets of recommendations, a high proportion of which have been accepted or considered for adoption by the Executive. It is sensible to reflect on to what extent recommendations made have been embedded and acted as a catalyst for delivering service improvement. Please note that any recommendations that were rejected originally have not been included in these update packs. As you will see, strategic directors, heads of services and exec members are in attendance today, and they can respond to any questions you may have on any of the updates. Also, to ensure that the impact of scrutiny is properly evaluated and recommendations are not just accepted and acted upon, a summary of impact has been produced by the service areas against each scrutiny item that was considered, defining what impact of progress was seen from the committee's scrutiny activity. Can I please stress to members, you are not here to re-scrutinise each of these items today, only to determine whether you are satisfied with the progress in implementing the recommendations as they were accepted. If you are happy with the progress that has been made, you can remove them from further monitoring and annual updates. However, if you are not satisfied, we will keep them on for further annual monitoring. The updates run from May 2023 to March 2024. We haven't included the updates from the last sets of meetings because the time period is too short for you to be able to determine progress on those, but they will be considered in your next update report. So the updates you are here to consider today are, as set out in your pack, managing the housing crisis, multi-agency pupil intervention process, community wellbeing strategy, the draft, social enterprises, integrated re-ablement, Glenavon Townscape Heritage Programme, front door to adult services and adult community learning commercial offer. So if we take each set through one by one, and then you can determine whether you are satisfied. So if we can start with the first set of recommendation updates, which is the update on managing the housing crisis. Members, do you have any questions or comments on that set of updates, please? No questions or comments? I determine then, are you satisfied that those are removed from further monitoring, that you are satisfied with the progress on those? Yeah. Thank you. Okay, the next set of progress updates is the multi-agency pupil intervention process. Again, members, do you have any questions, comments or concerns with regards to progress on those recommendations?
Yes, sorry, Chair. Just looking at recommendation one, it sort of the response is indicating that form is being piloted during the summer term with a view to rolling out. So it's just asking how the pilot's going.
Sorry, Lex, I'm struggling to get onto the IT system a second. Can you bear with me just to pull up the recommendations? Can you remind me which... oh, thanks.
Bear with us, members online. We're just having some IT difficulties in the chamber, so the officers are just trying to get onto the right section.
Sorry, the question was, you know, the recommendation and the response had indicated the form was being piloted with a view to roll out. So I was just asking, has it been piloted and is it still on target to roll out in September?
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
Sorry. It was difficult to find it.
No, it was.
Thank you. Any other members with questions on this set of updates? No, members, are you satisfied then that can be removed from further annual monitoring? Thank you. Okay, moving on to the next set of updates, which is the community wellbeing strategy, which was drafted at the time. Any questions or comments on those?
I think my recollection was that this was a development process, and therefore we were feeding into a development process, and then the subsequent strategy came to the council, and I could see that the recommendations from scrutiny had been taken on board. So I think that evidences that the scrutiny process and this method of going through the strategy at an early stage was fruitful.
I completely agree with that. The recommendations in here, all of those were then built into the strategy. The important thing, and one of the things that we'd ask members to consider when we do get onto visioning, is have those recommendations being reflected in the action that we've done since that strategy is adopted, because it's very good for us to be able to present it in a strategic document, but it's important that we're living by those actions that we've agreed as well.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions?
Yeah, I have got my hand up, yeah. I wanted to ask you, with this particular one, has there been a sharp increase and are we able to handle the pressure, particularly within the community because of the cost of living crisis? Is there more of a workload for the staff? That's what I'm trying to find out.
So I think obviously that's sort of straying into the realms of scrutinising that particular item, and as Dave has mentioned, it is on your list for visioning, and that can be reflected now in the progress since implementing this strategy. So that might be discussions, Councillor Evans, if we can just save that point for perhaps later on in the visioning session, if that's okay.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Thanks.
Thank you, Chair. On page 15, on recommendation 10, it mentions about a video, and the comment is the video to be developed and an action on the relaunch of the Connect platform in September. Just wanted to check if that is still planned.
If I can pick up the question around the video, and then I'll hand over to Beth to answer around the Connect platform. Yes, it is still planned, as are the work case study examples that we talked through, and they would probably interlink with the video. So we'd like to do the two in tandem to really bring it to life. But I'll hand over to Beth around the Connect platform for an update on that.
Yeah, just to confirm that the work on the Connect platform is progressing as planned. We've got a detailed action plan in place in terms of how we make the improvements necessary for a relaunch in the early autumn. And within that as well, we are looking at sort of video content as well to make it sort of easier for the user to understand how they can use the platform most effectively.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Members, so you're satisfied with those responses and happy to remove those from further monitoring? Thank you. So on to the fourth one, which was the scrutiny activity looking at social enterprises. Any questions or comments on that set of updates? Okay, so again, members, satisfied to remove that then? Yeah, thank you. The next one, the set of updates on integrated reablement.
Councillor Williams.
Yeah, thank you. Just recommendation 2. We know that it's been implemented and that's positive, but there was a suggestion about member awareness with a member seminar. So I don't know if that discussion has been held with the exec member to put that into a programme.
Yeah, I think it's been discussed in briefings. I mean, I could see Dave was possibly going to answer there, but I think we were waiting for some time for the reablement programme to bed in a little bit, so that it's, you know, we can give an accurate reflection to members, and members can you know, see progress as it is really. So, Dave, I don't know if we've got a timeline just yet for it. I mean, I think we're probably nearing the point where it is worthwhile taking it back to members through a seminar.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. What we wanted to do was wait until we had the first tranche of performance data, so that we as officers can assess whether it's making those changes, and then bring that broader picture in for a seminar. So that would realistically put us early into Q3, I would have thought, which probably aligns quite nicely with return from recess. I don't know, Sarah, if you've got anything you want.
No, I think that's right. I think early in Q3 we will have data we will be able to have a look at. So what difference is it making?
Just in following that up, I think obviously recommendation 3 to an extent links to that, which is actually sort of looking at some sort of case studies following that 12-month period. So again, it's just to sort of indicate that it would be helpful to see that as part of the feedback.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. So we've noted those comments to put forward for the seminar, but other than that, are there any other concerns, or are you happy to remove that on that basis? Councillor Williams.
So just so I'm understanding the process, so are you suggesting, so if there's no comments on this one, are we saying that we would remove it from the scrutiny for this coming year? Is that what we're suggesting?
That's your decision as a committee. You can either remove it, or you can keep it on for further monitoring, or you can keep just that one recommendation on if you would prefer, so that you can see that that's been actioned.
Right, so I don't know whether we would discuss it in the next, but I would think that it would be important to keep this within our scrutiny, because it's such a key issue, the whole reablement thing, and it's bringing together so many different things. I would think it would be an appropriate, this my thought, an appropriate thing to keep actually in our basket of scrutiny. That's the. Is that,
so
say that now?
It can be. So you need to determine, do you want to keep this set of recommendations so you're updated on these recommendations next year, or do you want to consider it as an item when you come to visioning, and whether there is scope that there needs to be more detailed look at it in the next year? So as it stands at the minute, you're just considering whether you want to keep these specific recommendations.
Right, okay.
That's not to say it excludes it from further scrutiny in the year if you decide to pick it.
Yeah.
So
No, I mean, I think these recommendations, as they stand,
have been actioned.
Are fine, because they've been actioned. Yeah. But I guess I'm saying that moving forward, I think it needs to remain within our scrutiny, because it's such an important issue.
Thank you. Councillor Daniels, would you like to come?
Yeah, I mean, if it's appropriate for me to suggest, I mean, I do wonder whether it's worth officers, whether we have an accurate reflection at this point to give to the committee to feed into whether they want to look at this, because I appreciate you've got your basket and you're going to be shortly scheduling that basket for the year ahead, so you probably won't be able to fit it in unless it takes some sort of mini version, like an update somewhere mid-term. But whether we've got appropriate data to kind of say whether it merits a further session in this particular term, I don't know. Dave, Sarah.
I think when we come to the discussion on visioning, there's certainly a bigger discussion to have around this, because this is a new programme that we've introduced. It is significant in terms of the way that we deliver adult social care, and it's one for members to consider in terms of visioning. In terms of this recommendation, my suggestion here would be that if members are comfortable, we've probably covered the recommendation here. So, Councillor Daniels, I would bring this up for a more detailed discussion in the visioning session, because I think there might be merit in members considering bringing this one back in.
Satisfied with that, members?
Thanks, Dave.
Lovely, thank you. Okay, so moving on to the next set, which is the Navan Townscape Heritage Programme. Any questions or comments on that set of updates? No? Happy that that's been actioned? Yeah, thank you. The next one then, Front Door to Adult Services. Any questions or comments on that?
I think some of the arguments that we've talked about in the previous item probably relate to this one, in terms of looking at that as part of the change to how things are being done. But I would totally agree that those fine in terms of recommendation.
Thank you, members. And then the last set is the Adult Community Learning Commercial Offer. Any comments or questions on those? No? Okay, thank you, members. So that concludes the update on recommendations, and you are satisfied to remove all of those from further monitoring, but not exclude any comments that you've made with regards to your work programme later on. Thank you very much.
Thank you, members and officers. We'll now move on to the next agenda item, which is agenda item 5. Update report, progress against adopted action plans. Rebecca, can I ask you to introduce the report to members again, please?
Thank you again, Chair. So, agenda item 5 is the update report setting out progress against adopted action plans. So, the Council's assurance processes require each Overview and Scrutiny Committee to receive an annual progress update against proposals for improvement and recommendations received from our external auditors. Following scrutiny, recommendations and other comments made by you as a committee relating to these updates will be reported back to the Governance and Audit Committee to fulfil those assurance purposes. We ask that as a committee you ensure you are satisfied that appropriate progress has been made towards external regulators' proposals for improvement, and if you are not satisfied, to challenge officers' presence as to the reasons for insufficient progress. Equally, should you decide appropriate progress has been made and all proposals actioned, as a committee you could agree to remove the item from further annual monitoring, or as with the previous report, if you are not satisfied, you can maintain those on for further annual monitoring. Can I please assure members, though, that the removal of any of the referrals from this annual monitoring report will not exclude these issues from further scrutiny by you as a committee, should you wish to select them during your visioning session. Can I remind members that you are again not here to scrutinise each of these items, only to focus on the updates of the actions to the recommendations. There are 4 sets of updates contained in the appendix, so if we can start with direct payments for adult social care. Do you have any questions or comments on these?
I think it's helpful to have the update, and I'm not sure there's much more that we could be doing, in all honesty, but I would just bear in mind that when we're talking about the front door, if we bring that back, this may be an element that we would want to consider within that. And I think checking how our take-up on direct payments is progressing and how it's being received is still useful to understand and appreciate.
Okay, thank you, Councillor.
Officers, do you have any comments on whether you feel satisfied that they can be removed, or whether you think the committee should continue reviewing these?
there's a lot of work going on in the direct payment space regionally to develop some regional standards really, and so we are working very hard in that space as part of the regional team, but those recommendations are, yeah.
Thank you, members. So, Brian, any other comments? Are you satisfied that those can be removed and reported back to Audit and Governance, that you're satisfied with this? Thank you. Okay, the next set then is Time for Change, Poverty in Wales. Any questions or comments on that set?
I think it's really an observation, and I think that this is starting to become more embedded in terms of the county plan and our partnership working, and I guess I also see that this is being picked up to a fair extent through the Gwent PSB. So, you know, it feels like this is being progressed as best it can be, both at local level and at regional level.
Officer, any comments? Are you satisfied with that?
Yeah, absolutely satisfied with that. This has become a focal point for certainly the work of the Director and the broader Council as well, in terms of, as you say, Councillor, embedded within the County Plan, Community Wellbeing Strategy, and the approach that we're taking to delivering both of those. So on this one in particular, I'm really confident that the recommendations have been actioned.
Thank you, members. So moving on to the third pack, and that was a missed opportunity social enterprises. Just to highlight, that was an issue scrutinised by what was the Healthier Overview and Scrutiny Committee last year. But whether you have any further comments or questions on the progress on those?
Just the observation, because obviously subsequent to scrutiny has been the employment of a dedicated officer around social enterprises. So it would be helpful to bear in mind, you know, how that's progressed, or the work that they've taken forward, because obviously that was a successful outcome of scrutiny and a recommendation to do some work in that area. So I just would suggest that we need to keep an eye on that, but the recommendations look fine, and in fact, by taking that action, we've addressed some of the recommendations.
Absolutely, and that's certainly something we've built in off the back of the recommendations on scrutiny. I will just point out on that, though, that the officer that's been appointed is short-term through grant funding that we've received to do that task and finish work, to bring us up to a point where we're confident that the social enterprise support networks are operating within the borough, just to make it clear that this isn't a long-term ongoing provision at this stage.
No other questions on that one, members? No? Thank you. Okay, so we can remove that one. And then together we can community resilience and self-reliance.
As with previous observation, I think the way we've taken forward community wellbeing plan and county plan that have been through council show that we are actually taking this forward in a quite sensible and realistic way.
Anything further, members, then, before? No? Then thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Move on now to agenda item 6, which is date for next meeting. Members, can I please remind you that the visioning session to determine the committee's work programme for the year ahead is taking place straight after this meeting is concluded. This session will not be webcast. So the next formal meeting of the adult and communities will take place on Thursday, the 19th of September at 10 AM. Okay, thank you.